Hi, I'm Yaffi Lvova, registered dietitian nutritionist and owner of Baby Bloom Nutrition, and today we're going to be talking about constipation. So you might not know this, but this is a really controversial topic when it comes to babies and small kids, and it seems like everybody really has something to say about it. So what really is the truth? And um, I'll give you what my experience and my clinical upbringing, as it were, has to say about the subject. But it does seem like a lot of people are saying drastically different things. Some people say that for toddlers, for example, they should be pooping daily, and some say that up to 2 weeks is healthy. And well, I definitely fall closer to one end than the other, but it's important to know that when you speak to different people and different professionals, you're going to get different opinions. It's very important that as a parent, you use your gut instinct. And yes, I did mean that pun. I always mean my puns. So you really need to use your gut instinct. Is your child uncomfortable? Is your child behaving poorly and not eating well and not sleeping well and has an uncomfortable belly? These are all signs that regardless of the frequency of pooping, there is a problem. So you definitely want to be in contact with your pediatrician. And, you know, of course, you have a dietitian on call, obviously. So you want to take note of those things, and you always want to have an open dialogue. You want to feel like you can have an open dialogue with your primary care, with your pediatrician about these issues. So let's just dive in. So many puns. Okay, so first, constipation is the #1 cause in children and adults for tummy upset. It seems like this is just a really big issue for a lot of people. So what is constipation really? It's difficulty emptying the bowels. The standard definition from Mayo Clinic is that you're experiencing constipation if you're not having at least 3 bowel movements per week. And this really is related to age. That definition is for adults and can also be applied to smaller children, but cannot be applied to babies. Babies have their own thing going on with this. If you have hard poops, or you're straining, or you have a swollen abdomen, feeling that you didn't empty completely, that could all be constipation. And the truth is that you could poop regularly and still be constipated, because not everything comes out. There could be a blockage, God forbid. So talk to your doctor and make sure you have that open dialogue that I mentioned. So some people, as I mentioned, say that children should be pooping every day, and some people say up to 2 weeks is healthy. I'm going to put the kibosh on that. 2 weeks is not healthy. If your child hasn't pooped in 2 weeks, there needs to be some intervention. As far as what I think the ideal is, ideally, everyone should be pooping every 1 to 2 days, not longer than 2 days. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of different opinions on that, but that's mine. So every day, possibly every other day. It should look soft and formed. I'm going to get into the definition with babies because, as I mentioned, it's a whole different world when you're talking about pooping schedules with babies. So the occasional blockage, the occasional difficulty going is not a big deal, but when you get into chronic situations, it can cause other problems. Constipation isn't a problem, it's the symptom of a problem. It's what shows that something else is going on in the body, and that's how it presents itself. So constipation itself isn't the problem, and when we look at it as the problem and try to solve it, we run into a lot of other problems. So you really want to look at it as a symptom. Why am I experiencing this constipation? Why isn't my child pooping? And the answer is never going to be just one way to go about it, because it is a symptom of something else. So what do I do? What do you do with that information? Well, the first thing you want to do is look at their diet. What are they eating? And this is obviously a child who is possibly at 6 months, but more likely, if you're looking at their diet, you're looking at that 12-month mark and older, just because their major nutrition before 12 months is still coming from breast milk or formula. And I'll get into that as well. But when you're talking about a child who is nutritionally dependent on solid foods, may also have breast milk if you're doing extended nursing. But if they are nutritionally dependent on solid foods, you want to increase your fruits and vegetables and your whole grains. There is a caveat to that. I'm sure you've heard of the Brat Diet. And the Brat diet is not for constipation. In fact, you want to go the opposite direction. You want to look at Brat foods and run the other way. Those are binding foods. Bananas, rice, applesauce, toast. That is the Brat diet. You do that if there's diarrhea or some other tummy upset, not for constipation. Those actually cause binding, which makes it even more difficult to pass stool. You also want to look at the amount of fat and sugar in the diet. Just for this amount of time. I am obviously a big fan of fat in the diet. I've done an nap time nutrition on the benefits of fat, but if you have a child who's experiencing active constipation, it may be good to just pull back a little bit until that situation is resolved. And the same with sugar. You don't want excess sugar in the diet while you have a situation with constipation going on, because it could contribute to a worse situation. So try to pull back on that a little bit. I always encourage a probiotic. I love probiotics. I love Claire Labs. There's a chewable protocol for life, and I see Paola's on here, and I owe you an email about that. Sorry. So I like the Protocol for Life chewables, and the Claire Labs products across the board are fantastic. But a probiotic is definitely indicated in any kind of recurrent tummy upset. If there's a situation with diarrhea or with constipation, you want to be on a good probiotic. And I did a nap time nutrition on that as well, so check that out if that's something that you need to learn about. You want to encourage water intake. A lot of times kids just forget to drink water, so you need to make it interesting. And one of my favorite ways to make it interesting is to flavor the water. And you don't need to flavor it with any syrups or anything. You know, like I said, you want to pull back on the sugar. But if you take a big hunk of some kind of recognizable fruit, and I mean recognizable like the child knows what it is when it's in its hunked version, you know, a big piece of watermelon in the water bottle, or a whole strawberry, or a piece of pineapple. These, when just put in the water, flavor the water nicely, and they can see it, and it looks kind of fun. You definitely want to be on top of washing out that water bottle, because those fruits, even in the water, do go bad. And you can have that for most of the day, but when they get home from school or at the end of the afternoon, you really want to just give it a good wash. Also, exercise. Our kids are spending so much time inside, and especially in Arizona, it's starting to get warm. We've had a couple of days over 100 degrees already. You want to make sure that they're getting enough water and that they're getting exercise. The physical movement that goes along with playing outside or running around or what have you really helps to stimulate gut movement and helps to relieve constipation. So even just a walk, even if you're able to take a walk after dinner as a family, just get the body moving, and that will help. Avoid medications when possible. Okay, we really jump a lot to Miralax and these other pharmaceuticals, and I'm glad that they have a place. The truth is that I wrote a whole blog on Miralax and the dangers of Miralax. It wasn't studied with young kids. In fact, if you look at the box, it says 17 years and up. 17 years and up. What other medication says that you can't have it under 17 years of age? Okay, it wasn't studied in toddlers or in babies for that matter, and we just started putting kids on it, and kids will be on it daily for a year, 2 years. And the thing is that they are physically dependent on it. You do become physically dependent on these drugs, and the body loses the ability to have a movement without that pharmaceutical stimulation. So you want to stay away from that wherever possible. Other ways that you can help it along is massage, baby wearing if they're younger. Well, I know people wearing babies up to age 4, so never a problem there. But the baby wearing, the way that you wear the baby puts their knees over their hips, and they get that pressure on their stomach coupled with the fact that they have that contact with the person wearing them, and that all contributes to helping their digestive system move along. So that's a really great thing to do if your child is having some tummy troubles. Get in contact with a good chiropractor. Sometimes that really helps. Sometimes there's something that's just a little bit kinked, and if you move it a little bit, everything resolves itself, and just be near a bathroom when that happens. A warm bath. Also, you can put Epsom salts in the bath for a toddler or older child. Check with your pediatrician before then. You don't want to dry out a baby's skin, for example. But Epsom salts contain magnesium, which help to release tension in smooth muscle. And smooth muscle is what's lining the digestive tract. You're not going to overdose on an Epsom salt bath because you're absorbing the magnesium through the skin. The body is not going to absorb more than the body needs, and you're not going to get too much in there. So that's a really easy way. It's cheap, it's available everywhere. Just dump some Epsom salts in their bath, and that may help as well. So what should you be looking for in a baby? I mentioned it's a totally different world with small children, and you really want to know what you're looking for. So from the first day of life until 3 months-ish, they're just really pooping a lot. And it starts off really frequent, and then it kind of slows down a little bit, but we don't want to be closer to that 1 to 2 weeks, like I mentioned earlier. So you want at least 1 bowel movement a day in a breastfed baby fresh out of the womb. But you're going to be closer to an average of 6. If you're breastfeeding, you're going to have a lot of yellow, seedy poop, and that's after the meconium. That's the first day or two you have the meconium. They're just clearing what was in their system from when they were still inside. And then when you're breastfeeding, you're going to transition to that yellow, seedy diaper, and there isn't much smell. It's loose, but it's not watery. That's really what you're looking for. If you have any kind of concern, if you see a lot of mucus, or if there are traces of blood that you can see, call your pediatrician. That could be related to diet or something else. So if you're formula feeding, you're going to have fewer movements, but still it's going to be daily. They're going to be small and brownish as opposed to that yellow and seedy that you get from breast milk. You are going to still look for at least 1 bowel movement per day in that child. So a question that comes up often is, well, why do babies who are breastfed have to poop? I mean, breast milk is so efficiently absorbed. And here's the thing. Yeah, breast milk is very easily digested and absorbed. It's the perfect food, but that's not the only thing your baby's swallowing. Your baby is swallowing saliva and mucus. Your baby has cell changes going on throughout the digestive tract. There are the probiotics that sit in their colon. They change over. So there is stuff that is going into your baby's body that you aren't putting there. It's your baby's body putting it there, and it needs to be expelled. So saying that your breastfed baby should go 2 weeks without pooping because breast milk is just that efficiently absorbed is really, that's not really how it works, and that's not something that you want to be looking for. You still do want at least 1 poop a day from your baby. And see, back to the what do I do section with the massage on the Babywearing and the Cairo in order to help that along. I'm not noticing, baby's up. I'm not mentioning anything that's too aggressive because that's really in the realm of the person who has your medical chart. Any nutrition information that's given in this format needs to be taken with a grain of salt, because I'm talking to you, seeing your name pop up, but I don't have your medical chart. So I can only give very general advice. If there's something going on that's a consistent problem, you should touch base with someone directly, either a doctor or a dietitian who has knowledge of your case and your history and what's going on in your family and certain dynamics as well. I mentioned concern if there's blood or mucus. And why me? Why me? Okay, having a baby is hard. Having toddlers is hard, but at some point they're gonna move, I sped this up by making sure my children are engaged from a very young age. They've been engaged since they were like 2. So look at the diet. It could be the diet. It could be that they're not getting enough hydration, or they're not getting enough fiber. It could be that they are allergic to something. They're having some kind of food reaction to something that they're eating. That's pretty common as well. There could be a fear. Once they get older, there's a fear of pooping, and there is, or they're too busy and they hold it in. And sometimes they lose contact between, they lose that mind-body connection at that point. They're too busy, they don't use the restroom when they need to, and they lose that mind-body connection and become constipated for that reason. And there are ways to deal with that as well, although it's from a nutritional and psychological perspective at that point. If your child is on an iron supplement and they're constipated, pull them back from that. Discuss that with the doctor, obviously, but you want to pull them back. Iron can be very binding. And food introduction. This is a really common time when a child will become constipated, when you're transitioning from an only breast milk or only formula and you're starting to introduce some other foods. If you feel like your child has gone 2 or 3 days without pooping and you're just starting food introduction, pull back, do it a little bit less frequently. Try to do maybe a fruit or a vegetable instead of a grain for food introduction, and see how that goes. So it doesn't look like I've had any questions yet, but if you have any questions, the video is up and I will be answering any questions that may come up in the comments section. So, okay, just for fun, everyone comment with your favorite candy bar. Mine is 100 grand. Okay, I'm gonna go get my baby now, and I'll see you next week for Naptime Nutrition. Follow me on Facebook, you're right there. Pinterest.com/Yaffi. Instagram, BabyBloom NUTR, and I don't have a topic for next week, so let me know what you think.